Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Smart podcast. I am your host, Karen Litzy. And today we are going to be talking about how patients can be better informed, better supported, and have overall better care. And my guest today to walk us through this is Steve Lewis. He is the founder of Naboo.ai. He is a passionate health and impact leader. And his previous career, which maybe we'll get into it a little bit, but his previous career was working with musicians and artists and traveling the world working with them. So maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Karen. It's great to be here.
So let's talk about the why
Hmm.
behind what had you leave, which sounds from the outside like a pretty exciting career working with musicians and people like Lenny Kravitz and Tony Hawk. And what was the catalyst that had you leave that career and move into this space of helping patients get better care? It seems like quite the leap.
Yeah, it's entirely different universe, but I think sometimes we jump and sometimes we're pushed, and I feel very lucky to land where I've landed. My world changed on me when my daughter was born. Like many people, my daughter was born unwell and dealing with some significant challenges from a viral infection in utero and a little bit premature with a lot of difficulty. And I was put into a new place, a neonatal intensive care unit, which was the first time I'd heard those words, and I was learning a completely new language, having come from working with celebrities like the likes of Lenny Kravitz and others. And one day, and then the next day, you're standing in front of this wall of machines with a lot of tubes and a lot of chemicals and a lot of words that you're trying to understand and piece together, whilst you don't really know what's going on. You're just guessing and trying to keep up, and that's what really put me into this place. Now it seems like it was yesterday sometimes, and in other times it feels like it was a lifetime ago. But the truth is that it was just over 18 years ago that all this happened, and it was in the transition from pediatric to adult services here in Australia, looking at what we needed to communicate, watching my daughter grow up, looking at the next phase of life where she was asking for more independence, finishing high school, like some pretty big life milestones. And you think, wow, I've had this baby, the most important thing in my world, that's relied on me every minute to stay vigilant with her care, and on top of so many things, suppliers and therapists, physiotherapists and occupational therapists and speech therapists and oxygen suppliers. And we have 11 doctors, including the services that we rely on. But now she's an adult, and now she has to advocate for herself, and but wants to as well, which is really, really important. And one day she said to me, Dad, I was arranging a support worker to take her to an appointment. And she said, Dad, it's across the street. I want to go on my own. I want to be able to go to my own appointments. And I thought, okay, what does it mean to be a good patient? Let's have that chat. And we started to have the conversation. What does it mean to be a good patient? And for all of the incredible technology that exists to support the clinician, the CRMs, the EHRs, what we get is a little blue book with some vaccinations. We get maybe we put together a binder, or maybe there's another app for your other services that's now connected to a QR code thanks to COVID. And yet nothing is a single source of information that's mine and that she could take with her and track her observations and include her documents. And that's where this ball started rolling, and it turned into a snowball. And I feel truly blessed, the people from the provider side coming to support this process and add to it, which is where we've gotten to today with Nabu.
And Nabu only started about a year ago or so. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was March 2024. Bowie was 16. I was out in the desert of Western Australia, outside of a place called Kalgoorlie, which is one of the big gold mines in the world. And I had been working on another technology in and around occupational health and safety, and which was another complete leap from my career. But I was out in the desert and there was a power outage and we were missing a lot of time. And so I was missing being able to travel. I was on the hood of a truck and this is where this all began. And I looked up who created writing as a concept. Like when did this thing begin of taking notes? And it was Nabu, the god of wisdom and literacy. And I thought that's exactly what I'm going to call this. Wisdom and literacy, understanding and support is what we all need. And yeah, that was March 2024. I made the first presentation on the flight home, which is a 5 hour flight. And the first conversation I had led to a very big relationship with Google and an important relationship for what we're doing. And then it all just started to fall into place. And I think one of the biggest compliments I've heard on this journey is a doctor, Dr. Peter Steer, who is the chief executive of the Royal Hospital for Children in Melbourne. And he was at Great Ormond Street in London, and he was in Canada and in some really big roles. And he said, Steve, your true calling is where your great gladness and the world's deep need meet. And it's hard to think about that moment because I talk about the people that have supported us and I talk about the people that have made the biggest impact. And that's a quote from a guy called Frederick Buechner who he shared with me to say that your daughter's journey has become your biggest joy, but also your deepest need. And it's a lot of other people's deep needs to support their children and to have better tools, to have better outcomes. And that's the piece that's missing. A really comprehensive tool for families to stay on track, families to stay connected to each other when it comes to healthcare, but also to their providers. So we're not left going to the world wide web of everything, good, bad, and ugly, because we don't look through the pile of paper or look through
Mhm.
our own notebooks because they've just become, plates of spaghetti that have become impossible to organize when it's just easy to type it in or now ask it. And so in 2024, 2025 technology, it's a lot easier to develop these tools. And that's what's also helped to speed this process up, along with the incredible people. I'm so grateful for my team. They're an amazing, amazing, very dedicated group. I'm definitely the lucky one standing on the shoulders of giants.
And for those of the listeners out there, how how do you go from here's the idea, I have a presentation, how do you get it actually into a product, right? Because it
Mm.
takes funding, maybe not as much funding as it used to many years
Mhm.
ago, right?
Yeah.
But can you walk us through that journey that you had as a founder of like a tech founder or an app founder? And what did
Yeah.
that look like for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely different. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the first websites and the costs and the budgets that you were given, and
Astronomical.
even yeah, huge. And
Yeah.
now it's it takes 10 minutes on an AI to develop a website.
Mhm.
And that's if you're drinking coffee. Um, where this was a little bit different was it started as a low code, no code, just piecing together things to make it look like something to serve my needs. And then you think, okay, now I've got to serve other people's needs. I need to be mindful of being able to scale it. Um, I need to be mindful of the provider's needs and in all of the HIPAA, GDPR, ISO 27001, SOC 2, all of that stuff comes into play. But where I started was this idea of, okay, well, what are my needs? And started to sketch out, literally sketch out on paper. If it looked like this, Where is that? Where is that? And I think very visually, and I think that comes from my past in creative project management and creative development, um, and so I think visually, and I just open up, quite literally, I open up pages on my MacBook, and I start to import a visual of an iPhone, and then where does this icon go? Okay, that's what it looks like. I like that, and I got to a place where I could explain it really concisely to somebody. Single source of truth. Here's where your documents are. Here's where your notes are. Here's where your appointment recording device, if you choose to use it, is. Um, Now what? And then as soon as other people started to say, "Oh my God, I went through this situation with my sister and my and our mom who was going into aged care," um, if it did, if we add in translation, they're in Spain, I'm here. Somebody talked about going from Greece to Australia, and their mom didn't speak English and got a penicillin shot when she shouldn't have. So now translation comes in, and we can put that here. And so it just sort of snowballed out. And when we had that sort of blueprint, I handed it off to three different developers. And so, what would this take? I asked people to sign NDAs.
Mm-hmm.
I've got recommendations from folks on different developers, and getting those quotes back, you realize there's a huge variety of approaches. And people were saying, I can do this product for you. It's $3.1 million. The first break is 2 point something. And I'm looking at that like, wow, that's wrong. I wouldn't go about it that way. But and I had enough of a background in reading this stuff to think, okay, well, I don't need to do that. Not in 2025 dollars.
Right.
Uh, and the guy that I ended up hiring and working with, Ben King, has a great past. And so you want to evaluate people's previous work. You want to see that they understand the entrepreneur's journey, that they understand trial and error, and have a good approach to this is what you need to prove the concept. Once you prove the concept, you can get support. Support could be funding, could be pilot partners,
Mhm.
use cases. All of that leads to what becomes the next step. Funding is obviously the critical one. It's hard to do things when you're not getting paid,
Mhm.
and I've got a family to support, and so it's very that part's very tricky. But Ben was just a fantastic ally in this journey of let's get the product going. I see the need. My team sees the need, and they talked about that. And so there's a lot of real rich fuel behind the drive to get the product right. And then I focused on the governance side. And I often say that the hardest part of being a startup founder is not your problem, product, solution. The hardest part is everything else that goes around that, dealing with your structure, your shareholding, who your shareholders are, and how you set these things up for scalability. And you go down the wrong path on day one, you become fodder for lions who are taking
Mhm.
advantage of it, and
Mhm.
you can be working against yourself unknowingly. And so I got some great advice and support out of James Melly, who's on the team, who really helped me understand the pitfalls of this stuff. I joined a few communities in the health tech space, in the innovation space, and got some great support. Innovation Bay in Australia is one of our leading communities for supporting early stage founders. I found that community to be very helpful. I stayed away from a lot of the cliche startup communities. I think that that's just a lot of circling around, and a lot of time that's focused on accelerators and whatnot. You
Mhm.
can be your own accelerator. Go to a hospital and say, "Hey, look, I've got this thing." Show it to them. I can help, and listen to what their demands are. That was the other part of this that became a huge accelerant. Spending time with the hospitals, spending time with the physiotherapists and the occupational therapists, and getting that feedback from the lawyers and the CIOs and the
Mhm.
CTOs,
Mhm.
hearing their demands, pressures that they face, to understand, okay, where do I go from here? People told me, you need interoperability or you'll fail. And then the CIO of a hospital saying, don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Our system couldn't handle it even if you wanted it. Focus on what you're doing. You're looking at the bits of information that families and patients and support workers need to follow. Don't worry about the complexity of our EHR.
Mhm.
Plus, everybody's got a different customization. And then who do you talk to? And you're going down
Yeah.
a rabbit hole that you don't need to go down.
Yeah.
And I always thought about what are my simple needs? Like when you're dealing with your patients, do you want them to have all of your notes or do you want them just to do the thing that you told them that they need to do to get better?
Yeah. The
Right.
latter.
Makes it a lot easier when you
Yeah.
focus on that. I think about, I don't know if you've read the Arnold Schwarzenegger biography,
Mm-mm.
if you're a fan or not. And I wasn't necessarily a fan. I had no opinion otherwise, other than being a sort of a remarkable character. He talks in his bio about setting up for success and project yourself forward to where you want to be and then build the map. Every day do these things and you can achieve any goal. Every day
Mm-hmm.
do these things and you can achieve the goal. And that's where a lot of this comes from. um, so we made the first version in less than a year, with validation, about 50 people playing with different features and
Mm-hmm.
adding to it. And at the end of each of those little periods, those sprints, as they're called,
Mm-hmm.
the people that were playing around with it, they all said, if it just did this one thing, I'd pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
If it just helped me communicate with my partner, right? So I don't have to tell the story 100 times, have the appointment, go home and have to start again. Did you
Mm-hmm.
show them this? Did you tell them that? Did you see that text message I sent you last week with that bit of information?
Mm-hmm.
That's where somebody then says something. Well, why did you do that? Now there's a fight, not on what we're supposed to be focused on
Right.
what we said, how we said it. Now we've got a distraction. And that's where I think, I'm very lucky. I'm in a very supportive, amicable co-parenting, very focused on the right outcomes. But you can see historically where we struggled with these things. A lot of people struggle with them. And we wanted a tool that was the primary care advocate so that
Mm-hmm.
everybody's on the same page without those fights.
Yeah.
That was the big one.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, especially when you're dealing with kids or you're dealing with older parents.
Yeah.
Where you're like, why can't we just have everything in one spot so that my sisters and I can see what my parents are up to instead of us trying to get onto their my chart. They don't know where the my chart is. They don't even know if they have a my chart. Their doctor doesn't use it. So then they've
Yeah.
got all this other stuff and it's like, forget it. I mean,
In
I've
your
had
world, you would also have had it as well, right? It's not about having the information, it's about being able to reprocess it for other
yeah,
uses in the community, in the home,
right.
um,
And just
schools,
just so
aged
everyone's
care.
kind of on the same page. So if I'm working with a patient who tore their ACL and I'm giving them specific exercises, their athletic trainer at school should know those specific exercises and how we're doing that.
Yeah.
And the parents should know how to do it, or an older sibling or a caregiver, a grandparent, whoever is with this child in the home. So I can see how a platform like this would be very helpful in cutting down redundancies on my side. So
Mm.
from the provider standpoint, I could see it's like everything's in one spot. I already said it, so I don't have to call every parent, grandparent, trainer.
And deal with them calling you as well, what was
Right.
supposed to happen, and a support worker.
Right.
I look at things, and spending time with providers. You look at adherence is a huge problem,
Yes.
and the knock-on effect if somebody's not doing their physio. And I have a huge amount of respect for your kind. You're on the front lines. You deal with people when they're in their most vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of other people punch a clock and leave, and then you have to pick up that weekly, okay, this isn't getting better, or I'm frustrated and I'm not able to do it. You got to find a way.
Mm-hmm.
um, a huge amount of respect. And so making sure that everyone's connected to that was a big goal of ours. We went through it, with Bowie. Um, yeah, a huge amount of respect for that. And then
Yeah.
to be able to track that. So when it got to the point where we had that initial foundation. Here's where all the information is. Okay, now support workers coming in. I don't want them to have a YouTube video of the World Wide Web of all things physiotherapy. I want them to have Bowie doing her activity with the physiotherapist, so there's context,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody knows that, right? And that's just a little 5 second thing that you shoot in the clinic to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is how you do the dip with your tubes or with whatever that you're dealing with.
Right.
And then that's in the calendar. And then the calendar pops up. It's time for the physio. Clear when done. Okay, now I've got a way to track adherence. Um,
Mm.
Unfortunately, you also hear about some of the more painful things in life where you have predators who are trying to get access to people. And I met somebody, an amazing woman called Leanne Kinsella, who has worked in child protection around the world in some really difficult parts of the world, Beirut and Lebanon
Mm.
and Gaza. And she was with the United Nations, and she was brought back to overhaul our working with children's checks and the things that she told me about support workers and predators. I was terrified. Um, well, terrified. So we set Nabu up to do police checks and accreditation checks. So if you are a Nabu user in Australia, we'll figure it out in other parts of the world as we
Mm-hmm.
go around. It does that, working with children, working with vulnerable population, driver's license, identity, right to work.
Mm.
All of that stuff gets checked, not once, on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And that then helps you maintain that quality assurance over care,
Mm-hmm.
um, attendance and adherence, the things that are really costly,
Right.
billions of dollars, trillions of dollars when it comes to safety and the knock-on effects of all these things.
Sure.
Um, and it sounds big, right? Like it sounds every step you take, it's like, oh, geez. But when you boil everything down to the simple thing of follow your care plan, know who your provider is,
Mm-hmm.
and stay focused on those goals. Stay on the same page as a family. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you're not together, stay on the same page for the care.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can avoid a lot of pain.
Yeah. Sounds like it to me, and give you a bit more of peace of mind,
Yeah.
whether you're the patient, a caregiver, etc. So now, is your daughter using this? Is she one of the first people who started using it? And the big question is, what does she think?
Yeah. Bowie's a big fan. She calls it her app.
Huh.
And she used it in one of her first appointments with a new provider and a neurologist here when we transferred from the pediatric neurology to the adult neurology. And she now goes to appointments and says, "Can I use Naboo?" And she puts it up on the table. When you start an appointment, it reminds you who you're there to see and why. I We talked about this. It's you're told constantly where and when to be somewhere, but you're very rarely reminded as to why you need to
Mm.
be showing up. And so to stay focused on your goals. And so the why is an important one. And then um, you swipe to get your current height, weight, percentage changes, current medications, who you've seen over the last 6 months, so that you've got some transparency over, as a provider, you would say, "Oh, when did you see your orthopedic surgeon?" Something you would hear a lot in your
Sure.
physio practice. Was it 3 months ago or was it 7 months ago? I'll put my hand up to say there were times that I could swear that I had seen a doctor within the previous year, and I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't seen them for a few years. I could swear. I could swear that I had done things that I had not done,
Right.
or I was off on the timing. Nobody's perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of you get used to running a script. Oh, I see that every 6 months, so it must have been within the last 6 months, but I
Mm-hmm.
had.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to have that accurately, that Bowie had in front of her, that she could communicate or show the doctor, and then swipe again, and there's all the observations. She'll take a photo of her stoma. She's got a gastrostomy feeding tube.
Mm-hmm.
She'll take a photo of her stoma and send it to me, and send it to her mom. We have a group chat for these things. Well, now we use Naboo. Everybody puts the photo in the same place. And when there's an
Mm-hmm.
appointment, everyone puts their questions in the same place. And Bowie's, it's on her phone, it's in her control. And then on the last swipe, you can either use an ambient note taker to get that provider's instruction,
Mm-hmm.
or you can type in your notes so that you've got your goals set up,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're checked. Everybody can look and say, "Yeah, this is what I need you to do," and then log it in, and everyone's on the same page.
Got it.
Support worker, parents, guardians, in some cases, unfortunately, when there's a third party who's
Mm-hmm.
taking control, foster care, making sure
Right.
people have the right information that's traveling with them. They're not having to search for and remember who they saw. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's there. Um, when we then started to look at interoperability, sorry, your question was about Bowie. So she started to present Nabu. She comes with, in some cases, I'm sorry she's not here today. She's actually in her last week of high school now.
Oh.
And um, she came with me to Australian Parliament House, at the invitation of the Medical Technology Association of Australia. We got to present in Parliament what we're doing, and she started to show people the app. She's getting used to talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
and in November we are heading to Abu Dhabi to the Patient Experience Congress, where she's been asked to come and showcase Naboo at the conference, but also to a place in Dubai called the Al Noor Center for People of Determination, which is the UAE's phrase for people with disabilities,
Okay.
which I absolutely love.
Love it.
Um, People of determination, which
Mm-hmm. Sounds much
is
better.
it's appropriate when
Yeah.
you think of what everyone deals with, and what you might call, or what I might call, a disability can actually be considered a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. I'm super excited.
That's
Bowie's
am that's amazing.
she's getting into it. Yeah,
So it kind of like it turns the patient into an advocate for themselves,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
we all need
absolutely.
to you either need to have someone with you to advocate for you, or you need to advocate for yourself when it comes to your care.
You need to know what questions to ask, but
Mm-hmm.
to have confidence in the information, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
amazing technology, and the Epic story, the Cerner story. Then you've got Salesforce Health Cloud, and you've got best practice, and you've got My Doc, and you have all of these things. But what you don't have is a comprehensive tool. Sure, you can give me my blood test results, and I can get my physio pal and have a very athletic looking person doing physiotherapy activities. Great. I don't look like that person.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that thing. I need the variation, or I just need my thing, and I need them all in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that start to navigate. And then once we had the foundation, we started to look, okay, well, now this is awesome. Can we talk to it? In 2025, that is not a stretch to set it up so that I can say, Nabu, what was I supposed to do tonight? And
Right.
start to have the AI side, not artificial intelligence for going out to find information, just
Right.
connecting me to the information that I need to have in the simplest form. Is it
Mm-hmm.
dynamic to be able to say, generate an update? Take my
Right.
admin information, make a block, take my providers, so that as if I walk into your practice, I can, in Naboo, I can go and say, process it as a PDF. I can't do a screenshot. I don't want that. I want to know if my support worker shared Bowie's information
Mm-hmm.
and what was shared, not litigiously, but for absolute transparency over what am I tracking, what was shared, what do I need to do.
Right.
Um, we're developing a 911 script. If Bowie has to call emergency, what should
Mm-hmm.
they know? Tracheostomy tube 4.0. Oxygen in the past, so make sure you've got it. Medication, preferred hospital where she's known,
Mm-hmm.
who her providers are.
Right.
That you can generate in a text message. You can generate it in a script, and then now we could have Nabu say it out loud and repeat it so that a 911 operator is getting very clear, concise instructions
Mm-hmm.
as to what to do next to help this person. And I
Right.
think the stats are like 35% of an ER doc's time is spent trying to find information about somebody. And you
Mm.
get somebody who's nonverbal, you get somebody who's got a lot of complications,
Right.
an elderly person. even with us,
It makes
very
it much
difficult,
harder. Yeah. So this
so much
is,
harder.
yeah. And so, as we start to wrap things up, I guess what are your biggest takeaways from the conversation today? And I'll put it into two parts. So
Mm.
from the entrepreneurial journey, what were your biggest takeaways of going through that? Because I feel like you laid out in very, very easy to follow pathway for other people who
Yeah,
might be interested in doing this. So what
yeah,
do you want people to know about that wonderful journey that you laid out, if they're in it or they're ready to get into it?
yeah. So I would say don't be shy. Um, don't be shy with your ambitions, but be very mindful of everyone who plays a role in the problem that you're facing. Um, I I don't I'm not the guy who shows up and says the health system is broken and I'm the solution and have my stats laid out. I'm the biggest problem in health. When you look at it, I'm the most costly problem in health. They have all these AI scribes and they talk about the percentage benefits on the day. I show up. I don't care if my doctor makes their tea time or not. I need help. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care about the privacy. We were talking earlier about the message I got, and I've got to go and find a password. Like whatever, I'm busy. Just give me the document that I need, so I can share it, so that I can get help.
Mm-hmm.
And so to try and when you're thinking about what you're solving for, make sure you think about all of the people who are playing on that and where you have benefit, because not only do you develop something that's actually usable, but you can find those extensions. And with Naboo, when we had the initial ID, and I showed it to somebody in a sports organization, Special Olympics, and they said, we had access to a platform to use, but it only did part of what we needed. So we just we went back to paper because that was the
Right.
easiest for everybody.
Right.
But with this, we can add another platform for education and community service access, so that I can
Mm-hmm.
onboard myself and you now have all of my emergency info, just that. That's a
Right.
product extension. And then I've got another one we're working on around clinical trial observation tracking, because I've got a comprehensive tool that has all of the permissions. We're going through the process now of our ISO 27001 for Australia, HIPAA for
Mm-hmm.
America, GDPR for Europeans.
Yeah.
We're doing all of that stuff, which is a lot of admin and a
Yeah.
lot of process documenting, but the
Yeah.
technology is sound for that. And it's mine.
Yeah.
The compliance thing. Okay, show me the compliance on Australia Post or USA Post who's delivering me my documents.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the I've heard about I've heard about financial scams run by fax machine repair people, because there's a page left on a fax with mobile phone numbers of
Right. Right.
patients, right?
Right.
Where's that
Right.
compliance?
Right.
It's a complicated thing. So the entrepreneur's journey is the original question. Don't be shy. Like if you think you have a solution for a problem, sketch it out. Find somebody, talk to people about it. I joke with some people in our community. Ninja Guru stealth mode is usually I'm not doing anything and I need to sound cool. Um, yeah, ideas are very valuable. Execution is very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
None of it is anything without both of those things. So, share your concepts, sketch things out, find those solutions, but go for it, especially if you're living the problem like we are.
Yeah.
Members of our team, Kaylee Dayton, nurse innovator, she's living the problem professionally and personally. So she's involved with us because of her role as a mom, and the work she does in intensive care is incredible. She
Mm-hmm.
lives the problem, so she's coming up with solutions.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
Great advice. And now, where can people find more about you, more about Naboo? Naboo. Why do
NabooCares.ai
I
is
why
the
do I keep
website.
doing the long A? And we
No,
talked about this
that's all right.
beforehand too. I think because I keep seeing it on your shirt, and I'm like Naboo,
Okay, so
Nabu.
yeah, and there's the pencil which looks like an accent, but it's I guess it's kind of an accent aigu.
Yeah.
Um, Naboo
Anyway,
is also a planet in Star Wars. So
oh, is
some
it
kid said to me that, and I thought, oh, yeah, I didn't know that, but that's cool. I hope it was a good planet.
right?
Um, uh, so Naboo is coming out publicly for first trial users in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So, and right now it's mid-September. I don't know when this is going to come
Yeah,
out, but
a couple weeks.
and so it'll be available through the website. You'll be able to go and sign up, have a trial, play around with it, give some feedback, and then it'll be available for subscription. Ideally, as we go along, we'll be able to show. We're going into pilots with different hospitals here for different reasons.
Mhm.
Complex care with one hospital system, the transfer from pediatrics to adults in another. We're being really fastidious about tracking the impact to providers. Those
Mhm.
adherence, attendance is another big one. People who don't show up, which blows my mind. I mean, you made an appointment,
It happens all the
show up for
time.
surgery. But yeah, you would know, right? As a provider, it costs you a lot of
It
money. But
happens.
yeah, so we want to track those benefits so that we can then lobby providers to be able to supply Naboo through their practices, big and small, right? Like your practice, maybe I'll hit
Yeah,
you up one day to be a
perfect.
pilot user.
Perfect. Count me in. All right. And for everyone that's listening, we'll have links to Nabu and we'll have links to your LinkedIn as well. So people
Yeah,
can
please.
find you and one click will take you that. So wherever you're listening now, if you scroll down a little bit into the show notes, you'll find those direct links. And now last question. It's one I ask everyone. It's knowing where you are in your life and career. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Um, save your money,
Great
stop
advice.
wasting it, and put your own oxygen on first. Uh,
Great advice.
That's that's probably the biggest one.
Great advice.
But
And
save your money.
save your
I
money.
always
It's great.
uh, my kids learn money and you can achieve anything. Don't learn money and you can be good but fail.
You're in trouble. Yeah. Well, thank you so much
Mm.
for coming on the podcast today, Steve. This was
Mm.
great. You really, again, thank you for laying out that entrepreneurial blueprint so clearly. And again, if you want to learn more about Naboo, it's naboocares.ai. Or you
Yes.
can scroll down and click on the link. So, Steve, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Karen. I love the show, and I look forward to all of your other guests as well. It's been great to have a good listen. I recommend everyone go through. There's a lot of episodes,
There's a
so
lot of episodes. Yeah, this
take a
will
road
probably be
trip.
like 733 or something like that. But uh
That's which is an amazing accomplishment as
yeah,
well.
yeah. Well, thank you very much. And everyone, thanks for
Pleasure.
tuning in. Have a great couple of days and stay healthy, wealthy, and smart.